Greetings and welcome, everyone. Once again, Teric has come up with an interesting topic that I think could make for some excellent discussion. I'm rather curious to hear what each of you might think about these subjects.
Several months back, we visited a friend of mine who was excited to show us an 8-inch figurine which he had commissioned of his original character. Not only did we see the figure in question, which was rather impressive by the way, we also saw large amounts of commissioned artwork, plush toys, and other collectibles from both the furry and brony fandoms. As we left to return home, we reflected on the nature of collecting within fandoms, and we asked ourselves what inspires fans to collect.
I find this subject particularly fascinating because, surprisingly, I am not someone who collects. As much of a dedicated brony I am, my collection of MLP-related merchandise is quite small. In fact, the only item I have is a lovely Fluttershy figurine that was a gift. I do hold this little figurine in high regard, but I've never felt the need to go out and buy more. In addition, I also have one piece of printed artwork next to my computer, which is the commission I asked for from my brother Teric since he joined me at a brony convention long ago. Of course, I do have quite a few images of Dr. Wolf with various guests that have been drawn by others and can be found on my DeviantArt page.
I, on the other hand, have made several purchases within the furry fandom, specifically commissioned artwork of my original characters, along with several comic books. As a husband, father, and one who is fiscally conservative in the first place, I'm not as inclined to buy merchandise as some others are. However, given the time and disposable income, I would likely bring more goodies home from the conventions that I attend.
Even though I am not someone who collects, I am still very intrigued by those who do, and often find their collections fascinating.
Now I want to clarify here, this analysis is in no way intended to look down on those who are heavy collectors, but rather to reach out and understand what motivates them to collect.
In order to expand upon this topic, though, I think an excellent example comes from MLP itself. In the episode Tradia, we saw several different perspectives on collectors. We saw Applejack and Rarity bring up their own points on function versus aesthetics. We saw one form of art being broken down to create another form of art. We saw Twilight spend the majority of her time trying to get rid of some old books, only to be reminded by Pinky about how an object's worth sometimes has more to do with fond memories rather than how useful it can be today. And then we had the plot line between Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, going through multiple steps of finding just the right objects and a complicated fetch quest so Rainbow could get her hands on a Daring Do book.
Just like with the main six, the fans also have a variety of reasons why they collect, in addition to a wide range of the actual items being collected. A couple of friends of mine, whose online characters are named Lauren and Shrag, are fairly consistent collectors in both the furry and MLP fandoms. We sent them a questionnaire regarding their collecting habits, and we would like to summarize their responses here.
The first question that many observers ask is, what drives fans to collect? What is the motivating factor that brings folks to spend money on art, figurines, toys, and other memorabilia?
There is a big drive for a lot of fans to see their own original characters brought to life, as it were, in the form of art, animation, figurines, or even plush toys. My friends responded that a lot of what they collect is centered around their own original characters. They love to see their own characters in different situations and stories because the characters are like their own children, their own family.
But not everyone has their own original character.
No, not every fan has an OC, although many do. However, collections almost never focus exclusively on original characters, especially in a fandom like the Bronies, where the central content is created by a single entity, i.e. Hasbro. Of course, a great deal of collecting concerns artwork, toys, and other items of the ponies themselves.
We then asked, what got you started with collecting? It turns out that many collectors got started when they first discovered the fandom itself. Collecting usually begins with small purchases of 1 or 2 items. Some fans simply stop right there, happy with their purchase, and don't continue collecting. However, many fans find such satisfaction in their first acquisitions that they want to build upon them.
Lauren's response was that once she found out what it was, she wanted more of it. Since she didn't have the skills to create art or figurines herself, she thought it made sense to commission others. Shrag, on the other hand, says that once he bought his first Applejack plush toy, it was satisfying enough to encourage more.
Kind of similar to how Rainbow Dash became so passionate about the Daring Do series and simply had to have more to add to her collection with every new book she read through. Whereas with Twilight, she isn't nearly as passionate about collecting, despite the fact that she enjoys the series just as much.
We asked Lauren and Schrag if their motivations to collect have changed over time, if their reasons for collecting now are different than what got them started. Their responses were similar. For the most part, they continue collecting today for similar reasons to what drove them to collect when they first started. Lauren says, "I collect Twilight stuff because she's always struck me as the sort of friend I'd like to have, and reminds me of me in some ways. I also like how Ponies as a franchise is so versatile. It can be converted so many different ways and yet still maintain its core concept."
We've seen a difference in the size of collections that fans have. Some only collect a few things, while others have amassed very large collections that continue to grow. Twilight, for example, had an entire library of books in her own home. While Lauren considers herself a very heavy collector, Schrag, on the other hand, responded that while he enjoyed the hobby, he considers himself a light collector.
I would probably rate myself the same, a light collector. Willing to spend money on artwork or comics from time to time, but I don't feel a big drive to accumulate a large amount.
Well, even though I don't have the drive to start collecting myself, I am still fascinated by the collections of others. And I suppose I do like seeing all the fan art of Dr. Wolf popping up here and there, so I guess in that way there are some things I enjoy collecting.
So you actually are a collector, even though you haven't actually paid money for your collection.
Money? No. But I have been putting in countless hours of my time and talents, and I wouldn't have any kind of fan art without that.
True dat. In a lot of ways, you have paid more for your collection than some traditional collectors. And, to be honest, I really enjoy seeing all of the Dr. Wolf fan art too.
In the meantime, though, we would like to hear about any collectors in the audience. What drove you to get started? Do you focus on collecting through one fandom or multiple fandoms?
Like the furry fandom.
Or the brony fandom? Do you focus more on function or aesthetics in your collecting? What's the most you've ever gone through to get a prized piece in your collection? We would like to hear your thoughts on what inspires fans to collect. And here's looking forward to all the stories we get to read about in the comments.
Until next time, I am TericDragon, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Mine. That's my song! What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about.